cool. I feel like have a very deep um, respect for like I just see myself so much more as a student of life, and like I like whatever I think I know, it's like I'm not even sure I can say I know that. So I'm like, let me just open myself up, one thing at a time and see what I can learn.
Yeah, there's one thing for certain is that there's a lot of uncertainty. Um,
Yeah.
I feel like the more I learn, like the more I've always had this thing about not trusting people who are very certain about what they know. But I
Hmm.
think there's degrees to that. But for myself,
Right.
I definitely have learned that people do speak from experience. So, and you can trust when people are being authentic with that. But also,
Hmm.
what are all the variables that they have encountered? What are the experiences that they've had
Right.
for them to have that understanding? So it definitely comes into play. Somebody's overall understanding of the entirety of an experience
Hmm.
compared to just what have you read or what do you know based off of
Hmm.
information exchange. So I feel like experience is huge as far as my number one factor of um, just kind of like seeing you. I really appreciate like how you are and how you interact with people, with things, and being able to see that, it lets me know that that's who you are, and so
Hmm.
I can trust that. And I think that's just more of an experiential thing that I can tell like what's real for you and what's true. So even though you express that out loud of like you said of I'm not even sure what I'm certain about, like that kind of vibe, that's a great place to be. Like it's not about a
Hmm.
lack of confidence, about more of an understanding that what I know is bound to change at any time. And I did
Yeah.
see some of that. Like I'm basically on the boat of a lot of science is bullshit, but until somebody proves it's something else. In school, we learned about the Big Bang Theory. Oh yeah, Big Bang Theory. This is how it happened. And there was just an article out the other day where they're saying, "Well, it wasn't what we thought it was." And it's like I was told that with such certainty when I was at an impressionable age. It wasn't like there was a question about it. This is what happened, guys, and I was led to believe that. So
Mm-hmm.
yeah, it's just fascinating. Like,
Yeah. I the way that I look at it now with science and academia is it's like this is this is sort of like the collective shared identity of what we believe we know. So it's sort of like the in terms of consciousness, what the human race has created and agreed upon together. This is the DNA chain that we're like slowly stringing together. And the more that we add to it and refine it and fill in those gaps, like the longer the chain gets. And so there is some aspect of seeing what's come before and needing to validate and honor as much as you can until it's time to like pull links out and be like, okay, this doesn't serve us anymore. But like on the whole, like it's like one way to kind of look at the canonized. All right, so we don't have to reinvent and redo work. Let's start from this place. And so for me, it's a very, very useful to think of it in that terms. But in terms of it, it's like it's very much fluid and malleable. And when you see it as this is sort of like one story that we use to explain how things work, then it becomes even more permeable, and you can kind of like you know dance with it and move around it when you need to.
Yeah, the whole theories. There's a lot of theories, and
Yeah.
that's mostly what I feel is representative of what I've been
Yeah.
experiencing. Is all right. This is somebody's best guess from the current combination of data,
Mhm.
and that's okay,
Yeah.
because that's where we're at as a collective too. But
Mhm.
we could spin off into some other topics that I won't get
Mhm.
into. But as far as all the new things coming out with um, the uncertainty of what happened with the vaccine and all of that stuff. So,
Mhm.
which to me is just kind of like, all right, I've been over here for a while. I want testing done on stuff before I put something in my body that I don't know
Mhm.
long-term effects. And I know for a lot of people it's just like a fear thing, but
Mhm.
man, it's just not right. So anyway, right, you start getting into those things of like, I don't want to
Yeah.
trust. I don't want to blindly trust the science
Right. Right.
until
Mhm.
until you show me that it's worth being trusted. And so it's just
Mhm.
yeah, something that our generations are going to be dealing with for a while. What is the 50-year
Mhm.
fallout of this?
Yeah.
Nobody's going to know until we get there. So, and of course, some people didn't make it. So that's that's the other side of it.
Mhm.
It may very well, yeah, help some people to survive. So the good thing is I don't know, and I'm not proclaiming I do. So,
Yeah.
mm.
Yeah. So speaking of things we know, tell me about your project, your Trello thing.
Oh my
I'm
goodness,
I'm really
yeah.
interested to. Oh, before we dive straight into that, was there anything that you wanted to? Oh, I had asked you about Alasia. Was there anything you wanted to catch me up on? Or that felt like
Mm,
we needed to jump into before we go into kind of work mode?
yeah, I think the most of it is we've been processing through some things. Like she's been clearing a lot of energy, and she's into some new programs here to where she's like you could call them apprenticeships, where she's really learning a lot and
Mm,
just releasing some deep patterns. And so that's kind of vague, but that's what's happening in a nutshell.
mhm,
She's gaining access to more of her lineages, and um, we've been having some pretty magical experiences. So even tapping into the fairy world, and that I brought that up earlier, and
mm,
I've never been involved with that. I don't know
mhm,
much about it, but I do have some connection, and then she's just been connecting in more, and it's been interesting what comes in. So
mhm.
I just go off of what I experience. So it's something
Yeah.
I'm like, I don't know enough to say whether or not like yeah this is real, or enough to say this isn't happening. But from what I've experienced so far, it's cool.
Mhm,
Like I love that she gets access to these things before I do, because if it wasn't her, I probably wouldn't pay attention to it. And
mm,
so I just
mhm.
kind of observe through her experience what's happening. And I
Yeah.
have shifts too, though. Like what happens with her affects me, and the shifts
Mhm.
that she makes helps me to shift, and vice versa. So just to experience some of those impacts has been incredible. We're just still on the same path we have been.
Mhm.
Uh, Massive growth, and we're at this point though we're both ready to share our
Mm,
vision and our service, and yeah, just finally be more in service. It's kind of been
yeah.
it's felt like a hibernation. I was ready to do this right before my brother passed, and now it's like,
Mhm.
okay, I feel like I'm in a better place to do this again. So yeah, so I think I'm ready. But yeah, I can just get into the Trello stuff. What are you eating over there?
Yeah.
What are you eating?
Um, dry roasted peanuts.
Nice. I got
Well, they're like honey
the
roasted.
almonds over here.
Nice, nice.
Mhm.
Nothing
Helps my brain
super
out.
heavy. Yeah, just a little tiny bit of protein to keep me going. But yeah. Um, so do you want to tell me kind of like the high level view, or you want to just jump right in and show me on the computer? What do you think would
Yeah,
be
let's
useful?
just bring it. Let's just bring it from wherever the energy comes in. And if I feel like I'm needing to show you some stuff as well, because that'll be good
Sure.
to. I can screen share and whatnot. But
Mhm.
is this? Are we recording as well? Or
Yeah, so what I've been doing is like I just stream calls to my YouTube channel, and since YouTube transcribes now, I can just immediately share the call. So like if there's anything that comes up that you want to go back and look over, it's super easy for people to
sweet.
access without having to
So
like.
you don't need to use the script.
Yeah, I still use it for like some things, like if I want to do some hardcore like data mining, or like I want to clip out testimonials and stuff.
Hmm.
For paid clients, I'll like if I do the call on YouTube, like I'll download the actual clip and then I'll put it in there. But that way I don't have to like just upload every single thing, since Descript does have like a limit of something like 30 hours a month. So
Hmm.
it's like unless it's like a paid call where I want to use some of it as marketing material, it's like there's no reason to do that for every single thing. And this is just like one click. It's like I can stream from Zoom straight to my channel. Nobody watches it. It's just like um, it's just a really easy container to like put stuff. And then if somebody says, "Hey, like, is there any way you have like a copy of that call?" I'm like, "Yes, I do."
Matter of fact.
Yeah.
Nice.
Hmm. Yeah. So blowing a few people's minds when they're like, "Hey, were you recording that call by any chance?" I'm like, "Yeah, here's a transcript of it." And they're like,
Yes.
"What?" So it's pretty cool. It's fun.
That's great, man. Yeah, I was just wanting to make sure because when I start going, I start going, and
Yeah.
I probably have most of the stuff written down somewhere, but to open up in a different space,
Yeah.
we'll see what else is here. But where I feel like starting is this is really an extension of your brain.
Hmm.
So I do want to do more research for ADD and ADHD and how this actually fits with that. So what are the pain points? What are the things that are normally happening within those two um, diagnoses that, yeah, it doesn't allow people to connect in this way and put it out there. So I'll just share more of what my experience has been. This started off small. Like this has been, it's just grown, and it's really a work of art for me that I love that I created it, and now it's getting so big, like it's beyond me that I don't really know all the parts and pieces as intimately as I think I would like to. But it's because I don't need to. It's running on its own. So I still have all of the automations that I've done, but I don't even know how many I have now. There's a lot of them, but it helps me to sort things. So I would love to. One of the things of like an action step that I would like to take is creating some sort of demo, either doing that live or having a video of
Hmm.
what that would look like, having a process that I share with people, but also knowing what that is. So what it does for me is, I think I'll just share it. I think I'll just share it as is. Yeah, let's get in here. I have screen share capacity here.
Yeah.
Okay, so I'm gonna pull up. I The other thing is I really love to do this on the phone. Like my phone is where I do most of this,
Hmm.
except for the inputs for the automations.
Yeah.
because it works so well on the phone. There's so many other apps
Hmm.
that don't work well on the phone. And this is the
Yeah.
one that works better than the rest. It's not really down. I haven't had any issues except for like some
Hmm.
minor things here or there when I haven't been using like my main phone, but I have several phones that I can use.
Hmm.
And so I don't know if that throws a wrench in things, but
Hmm.
overall, the experience has been insanely smooth. And just for that, I think that that's why I want to share this through Trello, because a lot of people are like, well, what if,
Hmm.
could you use the things I already have? I get that, but I don't think they have the capacity. This is I'm
Hmm.
not a coder. So maybe if I learned coding,
Right.
I could maybe help
Hmm.
somebody, but this is a no code setup that I have here.
Hmm. Yeah.
And with all of that being said, yeah, let's pull this up. Screen share. Okay. So you'll be able to see. Now, the good thing is, this is actually um, part of this I haven't updated. So you'll get to see where it is usually from the start. So, like a full reset, I have all of these different things that we do through the day. And this is one that I added to the top because the order just came today
Hmm.
or yesterday, and I want to check the date on it. So I put it in there. I'm actually going to move it to my current workflow. So I'll give the overview of these lists first. This is my schedule of where all of these are default, and then current workflow are the things that I'm working on right now. I have a couple things in here, these colored ones that are actually tools that I use. So finishing faster, not starting something before I finish something else. That helps me with certain productivity. But in progress, these are things that, so I have priority here. I'm pointing at the screen with my hand. I got to do it with the cursor. Priority, which is a custom field, which you can do labels as well as custom fields. And for these ones, these are all operational. Like the other priority is urgent or making money
Hmm.
now. But these are the things that I am currently working on, but that don't
Hmm.
need constant attention. So, like delegation discovery, if something comes up for me to put into here, what'll happen? I'll just show you. This is just one of many automations that I have. But so um, the thing that needs the delegating and automation update. I'm going to do this one first, and we'll just add that. And so this puts it alphabetical automatically, but this thing should disappear. Where does it go? It goes where it needs to because I ended it with automation update. It actually takes it to my Trello automations that I'm wanting to delegate. And right here it is. So I don't need that there. I'm going to delete that. So these are all things that are automations that I really need to hire somebody to implement because it takes time for me to do them myself. But
Right.
as I'm wanting to get more into my workflow, it's not going to allow me to do that.
Hmm.
The other way that goes in, this is delegation. I don't know where it goes. So this is just how my brain works. That
Hmm.
and the reason why it goes into processor, like on the laptop, it's not going to make a whole lot of sense as to why I need to go to this list every time. When I do it on my phone, when I hit add, this is the list that comes up. And
Gotcha.
then
Hmm.
these commands are all done either in the title of the card or the description.
Hmm.
So in this case, I'm just going to add the
Hmm.
card in the description. I can do
Hmm.
delegation label. So I just do my voice.
Yeah.
And
Hmm.
so I say delegation label. It's going to slap the delegation label. It says right now in list processor, it goes to completed this week. it automatically, it bypasses the done today because those are the things I want to review at the end of the day.
What?
This card automatically goes into completed this week, and the delegation that I just expressed is now in the checklist that I need to categorize. This is another delegation, but I don't know where it goes. So these are ones that I still need to categorize. And I delete that guy. And so it can be as efficient as that if you have something you're working on. So I just created those simple automations, and it automatically removes those other cards. Like you could archive those cards. You can do whatever commands you want. But for me, I move it into the completed. It's a lot easier to do. So that is how that works. So the processor is where all the magic happens. The other categories here, I have tools. So these are all things that I use. Conscious connection is what I use to open and close interactions with people. Just things that help me. I don't feel rushed. I feel ready for a breakthrough, ready for a miracle. Like when I need these things, I can access them. And the cool thing is, so on the phone, this is a lot faster. But what I do is I take this and I have these buttons, all of these card buttons. And so this thing was in my tools section, but I want it in my current workflow to go with those other ones. So all I have to do is that, and it's automatically over here. And in my, well, where's it at? In my current workflow, it should be. Did I move the right one? Let's see if it updates it. Yeah, so say I don't use it on the computer, so it may not be as quick. See what happens. I don't see it. Interesting.
Okay, so let me see if I understand what I'm seeing so far. You have a certain number of buckets labeled with different. The containers do different things, so they're holding places for ideas and action tasks that you need to do some sort of either continue processing and refining the idea, or it's something that you need to take action on. And by attaching the correct label to it as it goes into the system, it will automatically go into the assigned buckets. Is that what I'm understanding?
Yeah. And so this is the one.
That's pretty sweet.
I must have clicked a different one, but this was the one. And so I would put that at the top of what I was working on. And then that helps me because that's just my current workflow. I have a different workflow over here, which these are my different workflows. So I have this one's pretty sweet. I'll share this with you. So this is my productivity workflow. Now this doesn't show up as well on the computer again, but you can kind of see where behind this, it says 11:30 to 12. So this is like a half hour Pomodoro type of deal. And so what I can do, this little button here, it says productivity day. We're just going to go over to the action board. So my normal waking routine and morning transition are early in the day. And then I have my intention and what am I going to do, setting my schedule. And then these are what I use as like bottom parts that if I were to do this thing, because technically these ones, I have another cool thing. I know there's just so many features. I'm like, how do I do this clearly that it describes it? But if I archive this, so this is set the schedule on the phone, you drag it and you drop it. So it's really fast and efficient. But if I archive it, what happens if it's in this list, it actually will pop back up for a second, but it goes to the completed today. So whenever I get something done, I just drag it and move it and it's done. I'm going to move this back to current workflow, but what ends up happening is, so midday transition is 2 o'clock, evening transition is latter part of 5 o'clock. And then the sacred connection is after that. Well, if I go here and I do this productivity day, it's a board button. My productivity workflow is going to populate in there. So you see them all disappearing. They're all populating here. Now, with this, I sort by, this is the only thing with this one is this is the only way for me to do this that isn't going to mess up the schedule. So I'm going to sort this and see, yeah, placement ascending. So I have numbers on all of these that will put them to where they need to be. So I started off my day, I have 10:30, 11, you know, all the way up. And then as soon as 12:30, the blue ones hit, that's my afternoon. Then I have the blue one to go with it. But it has the 2 o'clock. I have my midday transition. And then that feeds in and goes all the way out until 5. That's more of my early evening. And my evening transitions at 5:40. Now, this is just if I don't have anything else on schedule and I'm rolling through. But the good thing is at any time, like I would only do this if I didn't have anything else going on. I wouldn't fill my day up with this kind of stuff. But what I have in place, I'm just going to go back to workflows. There's an automation that's timed. So at 6 o'clock, when all that stuff's done, this thing's going to automatically pull all those back. So they're all going to be in the done today by timing. Actually, it's calendar. So, okay, so every day at 6, each card with productivity workflow label goes back here. Now you can run this at any time. I'm just going to run it now. So that way we get all those out of there. And you can probably.
And so that, what functionally, what is this doing? It's taking tasks
so this
that
is, yeah, well, this is just taking that productivity flow, all these ones, and it will take them back to where they belong. So let me just close out that.
Gotcha.
And so that's something that I have done on a timer. There are certain things, I can show you other things that I have like on a timer, but productivity workflow should populate. And I'm actually needing to run it here. Yeah, see, it automatically does it on its own, but since I ran it in that other board, it doesn't do it. So I'm going to run it in this board. Because this is where they're all at. So that is something if you're not in the appropriate boards, because it'll tell you enabled on one board. So I tried to run it on the workflow board, but it only exists on. Yeah, and that's enabled on this board. So that's why it didn't do anything. But that's the kind of thing that, yeah, so you can see it moves all those cards back and you can just watch it repopulate. So that way, that's just one of my workflows that I use. I have a few other ones, like how we do our process through Descript, what we record through, how we transfer it, how we store it, just as a basic workflow for our journeys. We'll go back to the action page here. But mostly, I feel like that gives the gist of a lot of it. Those are the tools, the flow for the actual thing. So for today, has the dates on there. So anything that has the date of today, that will pop up. And I'm just going to pull up the automations for this so it can be seen as well. But if it's one day out, it'll go in here. So it's September 8th. If it's 2 to 7 days out, it goes into this week. And it automatically, I have it set up where it automatically sorts it by date. So these are September 9th, September 10th, 11th, 12th out to the 14th. And I only have one on for next week. But these, you can't see these. These are normally visible on the phone. And so this has a title monthly. This is something I do monthly.
Mhm.
And I'm just going to show you this for fun. Okay, so we're going to use the button done today, which it automatically closes out. So that goes to anytime I'm done with something, I can hit that button if it's not in the first one, and it sends it
Mhm.
over here. And so September 14th is the date. The other thing we can do, I'm actually going to move this back just for fun. All right, so I'm moving this to processor. This is in processor right now. We're going to hit complete, and you'll see it automatically moves it to done today. So that's another way I can do it if it doesn't have a due date.
Mhm.
Or if it does have a due date, you can do this. Now, what happens, since this has a monthly label, and when I unclick it, it automatically sets it up for the next one.
Mhm.
And then that card is no longer in done today. It's October 14th. So that's not going to be here. That's not within a couple weeks. So that goes actually to my recurring section. There it is, October 14th. So I have some recurring items, and this is in my plan section, and upcoming. So these are things that aren't recurring, they aren't monthly, but they go into the upcoming section. Yeah, I'm going to move that back. What I'd like to do is set up just a template with the tasks, and give people an idea, how this actually works.
Mhm.
But then have like the cards with the automations if they want to input them themselves. And a lot of this stuff, I mean, this is massive what I've filled out. This is a
Yeah.
lot of detail. So this is going to be overwhelming for most people. It's going to take up a lot of time.
Mhm.
But the basic version that I'm seeing is the today, tomorrow, this week, next week, recurring items, being able to have that all flow seamlessly in a way that it's hooked
Mhm.
up to their phone, whatever colors they need
Mhm.
for it to make sense to them. So I'm just going to, so usually, let's see, it also gives you the last update. So that's a custom field, but whenever it moves out of the done today section, or when the due date is taken off, it's going to do a last update. So that's not going to be accurate. Let's see if I can do it on here. A lot of this makes me want to grab my phone because I move so much quicker on that. So last update, this is, we'll just call it 14. I'm going to save that. And then when I move this back, so I just
Mhm.
need to save that. Move this back to September. And when I do that, it's automatically going to go into the other list and it closes out. So as soon as it moves, I have it close out, but you can see it's back
Mhm.
where it needs to be. So as soon as the date's gone there, so that's that. Anything that I need to, I guess, share more about? Where are you at in this process?
So what are the names of your lists again? I think I have the gist of it.
Yeah, so I have my schedule
Mhm.
and then I have my workflow, current workflow, things that are in progress. And these are just what I've developed over time because I have different ones and this just has worked the best. The processor,
So schedule is stuff you're actively doing today. You plan to get to today.
it's my active schedule. And how that normally works is this wouldn't be here. I would be at this point, just finish up my midday transition,
Mhm.
but I had a different kind of morning with a call, and then I
Mhm.
had a different appointment. and was out on like a walk and talk. And yeah, so I didn't do this schedule in the same way I normally would.
Hmm.
And so I would just go in and mark these as completed normally. But what happens is I go into this, whatever's at the top, that's what I'm doing. If there's nothing there, I'm going into my workflow. If there's nothing there, I'm
Right.
checking out in progress. Right.
Mm.
Like that lets me know what I'm doing right now.
Okay, so that makes a lot of sense. That water flow of like, so there's either something immediately on your agenda that's where your attention goes, or there's like general stuff that you do kind of in a pattern, or
Yeah.
processes that you follow typically, and then if there's nothing there, then it's like what projects are coming up if I have a little bit of free space right now.
Yeah. And if you have
That,
appointments, that would go in here in an appropriate place. And a lot of that I put into current workflow, and or I'll have it in the for today section, and I'll move it
okay.
over. So that's the use of these card buttons. Is it's in for today, but I know where I want to move it, so I'm going to put it onto the schedule. It's going to move to the top.
That's pretty dope.
And I
So the
know that,
automations are like attach a label to it automatically so that it knows where to go.
yeah, that way. And so I know that this isn't going to happen until after. It's like something I'll want to bring up for our daily check-in. And this is just my schedule. So I'm just going to place that there because that's where that goes.
Right.
I'll take you down a quick rabbit hole of like what's within the schedule, because the waking routine that I have, the first thing I go through is my dream process, which if I have any dreams to log, I have this list that copies. I'm just going to go through it. That's in this other, but this copy list does that every day at 6 a.m. And then there's what I need to process. Now, I think I had some dreams, so I did actually use that. Oh, no, this is actually the other copy. So what'll happen is I go through that. So I'll just scroll down. And once I get through that process, is this energy supportive or of a long or short routine? Now I have a full out routine that I could go through, or I have the short one that embodies a lot of it. I'm just going to do the short routine for example here. And we still have this plan to act board up. It's the same board. So that way you'll get to see what happens with the cards. But so I have this that has the main points of the long routine. And then I acknowledge my transition to go into, I have a morning transition, midday transition, evening transition. But to go on to the waking recap, which is the first part of the morning transition, what I do is I click this as complete. And what happens is it takes that off. That dream thing just disappeared. And also, I'm just checking. Also, that morning, that waking routine just disappeared from here. So it automatically does what it needs to. For this, it archives for the copy list, it archives it. And for this one, it puts it to the done today, because at 10:30, all of this will repopulate. But that's like those are my patterns and habits, right? Like this is my life. This is how it works for me. But for you, it could be, maybe you only have one routine. Give me 1 second. Let me just leave. I'm just going to say back. Elijah says hello. Okay. So, yeah, I'm just going to move these out of the way, which that's pretty fast. Now, the intention This is my intention from yesterday, which is still the same thing. So I'm just going to do that. And in archiving, normally they go away, but for me they move over because that's what I want them to do. Morning's done. I don't need that guy. And I'm not going to do a productivity day today, but I do like to have this as like a little banner that I know that, okay, once this gets done, I'll mark it as done today. And then what happens is that'll be there. So it says, hey, keep rolling. I believe in you. And that's what I want to hear, you know, so it's like programming yourself with all of the goodness that you need. All right, so midday transition. I didn't quite do that other one proper, so I'm going to do that with this though. So it, and this is kind of the shortcut is doing it in plan to act. Let's see here. Completely different navigation than the phone. This is good though. I need to learn how to do this. Okay.
This is so interesting.
So I'm going to mark. Okay, I can mark both of those off. So we'll do this. And if I mark this as completed, then that will archive everything. You'll see, then it says this card is archived. Okay, those disappeared. And the day, so this is just kind of my thing of like, okay, daybreak to chill afternoon. We'll go ahead and do that as well. And so these are the short versions. Get back into action. Do exactly what we'll do. Same thing, archived everything. But the main thing is I don't have to manually move those from action. Let's bring action up here. That's where I want that. Keep running into this guy. Won't be able to do anything. Oh, now we're getting into other screens. All right. So let's get back to the good stuff. Right. This is where we're at today. This is where I'm at. And so I know now I can get in the current workflow. But the fun is just beginning. So we have all of those. I told you about the tools and embodiments, which are really just tools I can use, how the date system works. I have a feel-good section of things that I just like, which one of my favorites is, I was talking to the cat one day, but I was also doing voice input. And so this came up of, how are you? You coming up here? Going up? You want to come up? So I saved it because it makes me feel good. This is my project management section of what I'm initiating, planning, implementing, monitoring. So this is something that I just have set up recently. I use Canva to make these headers. And this is the one that I'm currently working on. Again, all of this is formatted for the phone, so things are overlapping. It's beautiful on the phone. But I have, so between structure, there's 6 different categories. I have structure, which is organization, business, and money are the ones I'm working on right now. And there are 2 different categories for each. One of them is going to be functional and one of them is going to be more detailed. And what happens is all of the next steps are within these categories. Now this all lines into that processor. So if it has the label business function, it's going to go here. And at the end of the day, these all go back into here. So that way I'm not having it float around in the current workflow. And because I do that, I tended to work on the projects and then it's like, well, if I'm not working on that project the next day, or if I'm working on something else first, I can't have this big workflow clogging up my board. And so it just sends everything back and I can pick from it from there. The other ones I have are connection, growth and learning, and self-care, life care. All right. But I haven't got to those yet because where all this stuff comes from, this is just like what I'm working on now, is the plan to act section that I have a processor here. You saw that with the dates of like periodic things, upcoming things, realizations on integrating is just something else I use. But I have the different ideas of what I'm going to do. So when I use that processor, when something goes in, if I put the action label on it, it's going to go to the top of these lists. So if it has the yellow growth label and then I add the action label, automatically goes to the top. If I do the yellow growth label and I do this green strategy label, it goes to the bottom. These are things that I'm actively working with. Now, I haven't cleared all this out. This is still where there's a lot of extra stuff. And so I have that for each section: growth, learning, connection, money, and business. All right. And that is fed by this section, which, okay, so I have the care label on this. Yellow is soon, something I'm going to work on soon. If I do that, then it goes here. If I do it with the future, then it puts it to the future. And so I know that I'm not pulling from any of these things. This is just more of like a database of the things that I would like to work on in the future or near future. The plan to act section are things that I'm working on right now and within the next month, or that I'd like to work on in the next month. And then the action board are the things I'm currently working on. And so if I keep that same workflow of doing what's here in each section, making sure this processor is clear. So like I have these things that are needing to be taken care of. Then I eventually, I get to the things for today, eventually get over here to, well, what are the other deeper projects that I can get into? And it just flows differently each day, but this is the broad overview of what this thing does. And that took me, forever to express all of that. We didn't even get into the CRM part of it. I'm telling you, man, this thing's massive. I've been working on this thing for like 3 months.
It's pretty crazy. This is amazing. It's like you've been able to externalize a lot of your brain and like crystallize it in a way that you really can't when you just leave it all inside your head.
Yeah.
This is amazing.
So the connect section, I have, so like at the end of my routine, it takes me through the daily blessings, which are just all of the things that I pray for. Relationships deeply developing. Look at that, you're in there. And client depth, which I'm thinking about moving that to, I did create a new board called relationship building, which has details of, I think that'd be a great place for that. So anyway, my clients, potential clients, acquaintances, which I have my mom and dad in there because I don't talk to them that often, and that's okay. What I'm awaiting a response on and what I'm needing to follow up with. So a lot of this, which your guy, Brian, I did comment on a thing. He had a good post the other day. So I have this. I'm like, oh yeah, I did that on September 3rd. I want to follow up and just see what he was sharing. But that takes me, so after I go through those things and decide whether I'm acting on something, then I can go back to the action.
Hmm.
From there, it takes me through the sequence. So I go from right to left on that board. But yeah, that one's pretty straightforward. I mean, those are all populated as well, different labels,
Hmm.
the dates, all that stuff. It goes into this action board. And then I have all these over here, which you can see. Um, it's more of like my development. So idea development, finish pieces and share with the world is like the projects I'm working on. Malaysia and I have a couple boards together, which we can't see the other one. It's tasks, but that's where we interface mostly. We have a buy list of things we're working toward. And then I have all of my program material. So productivity, somatics, divine communication, messaging, be free movement, which includes personal growth and conscious living, conscious partnerships, men's leadership, life transitions, and then two nonprofits that I'd love to get off the ground, space holders and get involved. Music and creative expression also have their place. And yeah, I have automations for all of those, which I think I could show you just a little piece of that. So if it's the name of it and sorter, it goes into this. So like it needs to be sorted out, which I haven't got to these yet, but I just have basically the different categories that I feel are necessary, which this may change over time. But this is something that I'm not working on yet, but this is something that applies to every single one: resources, my approach, why, my systems with it, how to, advanced strategy, tools, so much client, marketing copy, interactives, and like quizzes and stuff like that. My journey quotes, and then I'm actually going to have another one which needs to be done with automations, labeled misconceptions. Is this too much? I just want to see where you're at. How you feeling right now with all this information? Did I overload you yet?
Um, so here's what's coming up for me.
Mm-hmm.
I'm seeing the amount of like freedom this gives you to be able to like download and store all this stuff. I think like the vast majority of this is sort of like the details of how you use it, as opposed to like the framework or like the process. If you could
Yeah.
show the process in a simple way, I think people would be able to understand it and find it really well, the right people would find it really useful. But I think it's like what I was feeling. Okay, this is going to be like kind of all over the place.
Yep.
So one thing that I was noticing is as I'm really paying attention, I'm also wanting to like eat and drink as I'm processing this, which to me, as I'm just kind of expanding like a broader sense of what stuff is, I'm realizing like this is something that it takes a lot of processing for me to like take in fully. So I'm trying to represent that in other ways. Like I'm not fully absorbing the thing. So like I need to have some other experience to like help me do some absorbing of like outside information, bringing it inside. So I think the big thing that would help make this useful for at least for me, because I feel like I'm familiar enough with like project management software and like thought process is that it makes sense to me what you're doing, but if I saw this as a demo, it would be like, I still don't know what's going on.
Yeah.
And so if we could kind of break it down into like the high level, like, so in order to feel like you're always making progress throughout your day, every day, consistently, you're you need to figure out what is it that you need to do, and then immediate as soon as like that idea comes up, it needs to go into a system, and that system needs to be simple enough for you to understand, and easy enough to use that you'll do it consistently. And so from what I've heard you describe and from what I've seen, it seems like there's enough granularity that like anything that comes up, like it's able to handle whatever you throw at it, and it seems like pretty customizable to be able to like keep growing and building this thing. So it feels like it really, like you said, it really is kind of like an extension of you. Um, like what I really see with this, like at a fuller um like experiential level, and maybe this is who you talk to, is like the kind of people in your network that are very spiritual, have like a higher level of awareness, and but also kind of struggle with like sort of the 3D experience, is talk about like part of our experience here while we're here is understand and know ourselves so fully and completely that we can um, describe that enough so that when we leave physically, we've left something behind that other people can model and see and replicate. So the essence of what makes us is still here, and making a difference for people. So what what you would think of as like whatever. I'm trying to describe this. I've tried to say this in different ways, but like I feel like in 3D you build pyramids like from the ground up. You do like the broadest foundation first, and then you stack stuff on top of that all the way up until like you can't build anymore. From the theoretical or from like the divine standpoint, like you build it backwards. You you get clear on what it is, and then you like beam down. You sort of like slowly start it from the apex, and then you like let it all kind of formulate down all the way to like the bottom part of it. So it's like if you have the one clear idea, like everything else can come down from that. And so I wonder if there's some way that you can communicate the idea of that this is like a way to sort of like spiritually or conceptually clone yourself, or like copy and paste your brain, but put it out in a way where now you're able to be fully present and free. So it's like the stuff that you need to have in front of you, it's like it doesn't have to stay in your head. It doesn't have to, those programs and those processes don't have to continually be in your awareness. You can put them somewhere else and store them so that when you want them, you can call them up, like you know, like it's a belonging, or like a pet or something. Like do that to your processes and like you call them automations and workflows. Like I even think like you can you know outsource and delegate like your personalities and different aspects of like different parts of who you are. It's like, oh man, I need like my boss hat to come out today. It's like, all right, so what's my routine for that? I gotta be like the counselor, or I'm gonna do the husband job to. It's like if you just like keep expanding, 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 and expanding of like I'm doing all of these things. It's like um, it's sort of like why we have a closet full of outfits, like wardrobes that on some level this look sort of expresses some version of me, but I don't need to be that thing all the time. I don't need to be all of them at the same time. And so that's sort of what you're doing with like the stuff that usually is just kind of like inside that other people can't access. It's like finding a way to externalize them and put them in something so that they're not running around like kids inside your head, like taking up space and knocking things over and like, well, I don't need that program running right now. I'm going to observe it, understand what it is, figure out how to sum it up in a way that I can call that thing back up when I need it. And then I'm going to write it down, turn it into a real thing, externalize it, and then put it in the shelf, put it on the shelf until I need to use it.
Yeah. Yeah, there's it's interesting. There are different points that like I showed you what it is, but I didn't
Mm-hmm.
really describe what it does for me. And I
Mm-hmm.
think that's like what people feel
Mm-hmm.
and they can buy into. So that was like what started to come through. And I'm like, let me just show you like what
Mm-hmm.
this does for me. But like you could see it's an extension of it's an extension of my brain to where I'm able to be present all the
Mm-hmm.
time. And as those things come up, I know that they have a home. I know that I can release them. But the
Yeah.
best thing is I can see where I'm getting overloaded. So
Mm-hmm.
I have these processes to reset things as it scrambles up or if it overloads. But I have done all of this work to find like
Mm-hmm.
where it actually happened. And so that's what's allowed me to create these different pathways is because I got to see this doesn't work here. And I would go through
Mm-hmm.
this big transformation and be able to shift it. Now, I don't know who else is ready to do that kind of thing, but I think of people who like productivity hacks. Like this is
Yeah.
an ultimate productivity hack of let's see what happens when you go
Mm-hmm.
through your system. Like where isn't it working for you? And how can
Right.
you begin to allow the information and your energetic flows? Because there's a whole extension to this
Mm-hmm.
of an app that I want to create of energetic flows and how that comes
Mm-hmm.
together within this context as well. I've already like written the start of that, but it has to do with the
Mm-hmm.
soul check-ins, checking in with what sensations we're having and the feelings we're having within our body, being able to
Mm-hmm.
map those clusters and being able to correlate that with what's happening, what are the stimuli. So there's already some apps that are similar, but this would be
Mm-hmm.
that along with workflow productivity to connect
Mm.
that together. It's not just about it's not just about being in flow. It's not just about monitoring, like gauging out your feelings. It's actually a combination of when do you do this thing best? Like when is your energy best utilized? And I did create, and I can share with you here,
Oh, geez, dude.
like an awareness app, right? Of,
Uh-huh.
um,
Yeah.
the
Okay,
different.
so
Yeah, go
what
ahead.
I'm hearing, what's coming through for me is like if you built this as an app or a platform or community, you could actually map and triangulate based on multiple perspectives like, oh, we can create a user manual for the modern human brain. It's like here's like 15 of the best, like, thousands of upvotes, community voted. It's like here's the process for dealing with anxiety. all right, so across these 15 like really popular things, like what are the things that are the same? Oh, so here's the framework for like consistently dealing with anxiety. It's like understand the thing that you're thinking. Okay, now go find the thing that presses your buttons that like helps you know I'm okay, and then accept that this is something that is temporary. It's going to pass. Allow yourself the space to process it. Get, you know, create whatever container or safety you need to do. Have that experience. Maybe it's something you need to schedule. Like, and then it's like you can use um, people's experience and it's like, oh, this worked for me. And if it's like a one-off, great, you use it, do it in your container. But like if you want to publish your thing, say, hey, this is really working, let me explain to you how this works. Here's my little routine for how I never miss client appointments. Here's my little mental process for remembering somebody's name that I meet for the first time and I remember everyone's name. Or like whatever that thing is, what are the ways that, given the technology that we have, given what we people who are observant about their mental processes, it's like let's start describing them and calling them, naming those things. So now we don't just have, oh, I have all of these people and these processes and programs running around in my head and I have no names for them, so I just feel like I'm schizophrenic. You no longer have to like just like, well, I don't know how to use my brain and navigate my vehicle, so I just am crazy. It's like, let's give people common language for stuff and start observing, like, under a microscope, what's happening inside, like, the computer that we all use.
Yeah, this feels really big. I mean, it's always felt big, but this is this as it gets more and more real, I'm just like, this is way bigger than me, and I have this sense of wanting to control. Well, I want to know about all the variables and how this works, and but it doesn't
Mm-hmm.
work that way. So I'm using my own advice here, letting it be what it is, and acknowledging that this is something that's going to happen, and it's going to be a lot bigger than me, and that's okay. That is okay.
It's really interesting. Just in the like over the course of this conversation, I've started to have a seed of an idea, like, of what my gift actually is. And it's not necessarily like even organizing information or listening it, but it's like I am able to pay attention to something enough for it to go from like ethereal to material. It's like I'm able to like open a doorway between like the metaphysical plane into like, is this something that wants to be born, and let's create a space where like the energy can be um bounced around long enough for it to have a way to come into existence. Interesting.
Yeah,
So like I have, I mean, in like kind of like Christiany or like religious terms, since I know you have that sort of like
a dialect.
language, it's sort of like, yeah, it's sort of like if you want something to be real, you can like outsource faith. It's like if you have something that's like, I don't really know what belief is or like how to make something real or how to actually like, but like this guy does, and like you can rent somebody who can move a mountain, so to speak. Like, all right, I know that anything is possible. Tell me your thing, and long enough for me to understand it, and then I'll help like plant the seed of like, oh, that's a real thing. Like, here's what I see, here's what it can be, here's how you might go about doing that. And it's like, be there with you long enough to give you confidence, like, oh, this can actually happen. Or it's not just a theoretical thing, and like I'm actually on the way to materializing it.
When you mention that, I think of, well, what are the steps? And I think a lot of that comes in for myself as well. Uh, I don't know the steps until I get
Hmm.
there a lot of times, but because I've done this process, I can understand the steps. But like a lot of that is that stuff goes into the soon in the future, right? Like that's not what I'm working on right now because that's after I've built a whole lot more. So the 3 months that I've put in
Right.
is the infrastructure, but what's right
Hmm.
in front of me right now is not that thing. That thing is coming.
Hmm.
If I continue
Yeah.
to really put in this work in the present moment. So
Hmm.
that's where this system helps me to stay in the present moment as well and not get lost in like the men's leadership. Like there's what 12 different things
Mm.
there. I could focus on all of them one at a time, but really there's only one that needs focus on right now. That makes the most
Hmm.
sense. That's going to be the most useful. That's the first
Right.
building block. And it's what I don't have access to without this
Hmm.
system is I can't tell what's next. I'm not able to see
Gotcha.
clearly enough because I have all of
Hmm.
those things and they're coming from all different directions. But when they're
Hmm.
put into a structure like this, I can see I don't need to do that
Hmm.
yet. I can let everything that comes through with that go through the system. It's going to
Hmm.
put it there for later, just as you were describing, and I can focus on what is coming through right now.
Hmm.
Because I don't know if those things are like 10 years from now. Some of them,
Right.
I have no idea. And it's just hard for me because time doesn't exist. So
Hmm.
what do I do if I'm receiving like my life's work all at one time,
Hmm.
but I'm not going to act on this thing for years? What, what good is that? Like how did I get so scrambled as far as a receiver goes?
Hmm.
And I think this is a way to sort that out, to
Hmm.
be able to discern. Like it has helped me with that a lot too, seeing what just doesn't matter at all.
Hmm.
Because I'm only holding on to the things that house this giant vision of what's about to happen.
Yeah.
And, yeah, I guess where I'm at is what do I have here to share with people? Because in the sense of like what Jessica had asked me about was her tasks and with different periods of time and how to be able to house that so that and that's why I was bringing up the basic version of the days.
Hmm.
I think that could be useful to people who don't have neurodivergent tendencies. But how
Yeah.
simple can it be to use?
Yeah.
Like, and how is it different from a regular calendar?
Hmm.
Um, and can people set it up easily on their own, or do they need me to program it? And if that's the case, like why not make
Hmm.
just a legit app instead of using Trello? But I don't know how to code.
Hmm.
So,
Yeah.
all right, I've proven the concept through Trello. Would a developer then make an app that would
Hmm.
do this exact same thing?
Yeah.
This is just where I
Um,
go. It's like, what do I actually do with this? Because I'd love to start sharing a stack with people right now of just the basic Trello list cards with details of
yeah.
how to make this yourself and what it can do for you. And I don't
Hmm.
have enough clarity on that. I do have a workflow of it that I was going to go through, but I thought, since you offer, yeah, let's get in here today and see what's here.
Yeah. So there seems to be a couple of applications that seem real obvious to me. One is for people who work on teams and have distributed work. So they're familiar with project management. They may even be familiar with Trello. What I've experienced and what I've heard from other creatives who work in kind of like a high level capacity is my work is great. I do like world-class work. My personal life is in disarray. And so what I can see you doing is bridging the worlds between it's like, okay, why is it that I'm organized in this part of my life, but I'm not organized in this part of my life? It's like you can be the bridge in between those two worlds and say, see this process over here that you already know? Let me show you how you apply that to this. Because life doesn't come with KPIs and deliverables the way that like a project, like a graphic design project, you're going to have like a 6-page leaflet. It's going to be, 4.5 paragraphs on each page, except for the last page, which is going to be like a bullet point list of your pricing. It's like you can break that down into objectives. What happens with your life? Well, it's less about I need to get these things done and more about like how do you think? How do you map out the way that you automatically feel and think and respond to what's happening in your brain? Let's write those out in a process that you can see in front of you graphically so that you can start organizing and taking charge of like you become like the traffic director. It's like, okay, this needs to go here, this goes here, this goes here, the same way that you take information from outside sources at work and you organize it and make sure it all gets to the right place. You need to do that job with your own life, with the information coming in, and redirect it out to the places where it needs to go. But there isn't like people don't teach you that in school, but you've had to learn that process for your work. It's not too much more of a jump to be able to do that for your mind. Let me show you what I've learned. And so for people who already have some sort of framework for that, I think it solves a big problem for people who are like, I'm successful on some level at, in one part of my life, but another part of my life is just sort of like I just kind of brute force all the stuff that I get done because like I don't have a great system. And so it's like maybe I can help you find a way to build a system that's like, let's start simple and then you build out whatever you need to make it your own. So that's one application that I could see that I think there would be an audience for that would really value what you've created. The other is I think for higher level people who are successful who kind of think of themselves in this sort of royal we, like they already identify themselves, maybe not publicly, but like I am like multiple people, identities. I am my business, I am my family, I am like my intentions, my goals, like all of those things. And for somebody who is successful, it's like here's a process for you to more accurately diagnose. It's like here's a way to like get all of your team on the same page. It's like everything and everybody that's inside of you. It's like let's let them have access to the exact same information. So like maybe you're keeping a great journal, maybe you use a calendar. This is a way that you can start documenting and crystallizing like other pieces of data and information besides just like is it an appointment, is it a thought I want to remember, it's like how are you actually functioning and start like tracking data on those things so you can learn from it.
Yeah, I do feel like this is a giant awareness system.
Mm-hmm.
And what I've come to find, I'm becoming reliant on it.
Mm,
which it does feel good because I want to
mhm,
be that level of productive, and I
mhm,
know that it has all the things that I need. So it's just kind of,
mhm.
I feel better with the
Yeah.
structure. I feel better knowing I'm getting to everything. I don't have to
Mhm.
think about it. I can just live.
Yeah.
And because this is taking care of all of the thinking. And there's a software called Kintone. I don't know if you ever heard of it, but
Mm,
it's basically, they're proposing this to businesses of having all of your information and your teams and everything else all in one place, your data
mhm.
analytics and all that. So that way you aren't having to open up multiple different programs and all the information's in one place for everybody.
Mhm.
All of those points, which I feel like that's a very
Mhm.
good, like that's a very accurate assessment of what
Yeah.
this does for your life, though. It's not about
Mhm.
business. This is, I mean, business can be included, but this is about
Yeah.
your existence as a human.
Mhm.
What are all of the things that are in your life and how do they fit together? Do they actually work? And can you see how they
Yeah.
work together? And
Mhm.
it just feels like the ultimate, for lack of better terms, work-life balance tool, awareness tool,
Mhm.
and process for people to go through what do they actually want their
Mhm.
life to be. Because when you see it on paper,
Yeah.
it's like a slap in the face, and you see what is happening and what's working and what's not because you're entering it
You know
in.
what? You know what I think would be a great analogy for this would be if you can create a system that allows people to write their own simple mental apps. So it's like what you're doing is you're uncovering how you think, and then you can codify that. So now you have an app that does this process, which you normally would do in your head, which is not very reliable because you're an organic computer, which is super great for receiving like extrasensory like feelings and different information like that. But you in order to make it consistent, you need to have it turned into a machine, which we're very poor machines in terms of consistency because we have so many multiple dimensions that we juggle. Um,
Yeah, this takes all of those things that really don't
mhm,
involve emotional input. It's like the
mhm,
processor part of our brains and the usefulness of that, but it separates.
mhm.
So like the whole thing of what is that called? Why I'm drawing blanks here. Um, Basically having too many choices, and
Yeah,
it shuts you down.
decision overwhelm
Yeah,
or
so like why
fatigue,
Zucker,
decision
yeah, well,
fatigue.
exactly. I was thinking why Zuckerberg wears the same shirt all the time. It's like
Right.
basically
Yeah.
decision fatigue. So like if you have all of this information coming in, you're trying to figure out where it goes, how are you supposed to do that? Like, why not have this for your life?
Hmm.
So this is what I'm selling. This is, I don't know, man. And I just feel like
Hmm.
having the examples for people, if I could have
Yeah.
some, let's say like my system is great for me because it has all my information, but I don't want to share exactly what I have. I'd want to share more
Hmm.
of a limited version with things people can relate to and maybe
Hmm.
what I would consider like a normal person's schedule layout. But to have it with the ease. So I don't know if Trello is even the place to do this, but I think it could be a
Hmm.
great proof of concept to then make an app that could do that because it's really about the phone. Like
Hmm.
this is not about being on a computer and being tied to a computer. This is everybody has a
Hmm.
phone. We're on it. I want to be able to do this and put it where it goes and then put it away and look at it when I'm ready to look at it. Like I don't want to
Yeah.
have to categorize my notes because I have so many of them. I just can put this all into Trello cards, and then
Hmm.
that goes where it's supposed to. But to the level that I want to do it, Trello is going to charge you. Trello is going to charge you money, and then to back up your boards. So I'm paying another company, Rewind. So this is costing me about $30 a month to maintain. So what if you had all of this with the backup and everything? Because it houses everything. Like Trello, you can have unlimited storage, basically. They don't say that outright, but that's what it is. You put videos in the card, you put whatever you want. It all goes into the system and it's stored there. So, I mean, people just aren't taking advantage of it or something, or maybe they have unlimited storage to burn like that. But I figure, you know, like everything that I have to house off of my hard drive, off of my phone, it's just all going into them. But anyway, I do feel like this is more of, I want to pitch this app. I'd like to help develop it, work with somebody to actually do that and get the funds to create it and have creative control over it, because this is my contribution to the world, I suppose. But I'd also love to use it. So if I could simplify the Trello process that I've already simplified.
So
I know this is a brain breaker, isn't it?
Since you've started this process, how often have you experienced, like, you're in the middle of doing something and you go to another room and you completely forget like what you were doing?
I don't do that. I haven't. Yeah, I don't have that.
Is that something that you've experienced in the past?
Yeah, I wouldn't say a ton, but especially with information, like this is a very important aspect of this for me, is I don't lose information. Like it's,
So yeah, so this is like what you're creating is a what's the best way to say this?
I feel like we're in an underground chat right now, and like, dude, there's this massive thing that we can share with the world that nobody knows about.
Yeah. So
But
it's sort of
so
like,
close.
yeah, if you have what you've invented is the vacuum sealed thermos for your brain. This externalizing it and categorizing your processes creates a level of insulation around your ideas and things that you want to do, so that it doesn't just evaporate. It's like you pour yourself a cup of coffee, but it's like, as long as we've had teacups or mugs, it's like you drink it then when it's hot, because 15 minutes from now it's going to be cold. It's like, and then we came up with the coffee cup lid, and then we came up with the vacuum sealed thermos. Now you can pour yourself a cup of coffee before you leave for work, and 3 hours later it's still hot. Like, you're allowing people to time travel through this process.
Why are you so good with analogies? I love
that. That's my superpower.
For sure. Yeah, that's fantastic. I mean, that is what it does. It preserves the integrity of the value of what it is when it comes through. So you receive it, and most of the time there's no action because you lose it. But if it goes somewhere, like when I go through the processor, There's certain things that automatically go certain places, but if I don't know where it's going yet, or I'm wanting to work with it, it hits the processor, and then I'm checking it out immediately because it's the fourth thing on the list.
Mm-hmm.
And then I have multiple touch points with it, and I can expand on it. I click on the card, I enter more details, I create checklists,
Yeah.
I send it where it goes, or I create a new pathway if it doesn't have one. And
Yeah.
that's what's happened over time is I've learned how to do that. And if that could be simplified to where you don't have to code all this shit, because basically I would have to follow somebody within their daily process
Mm-hmm.
and have them express to me what they're putting down, where they would like it to go. Then I could create
Yeah.
that through automations for them and create
Mm-hmm.
the structure. Then they'd have to learn how to use that structure. But what if they could put that in themselves as they're going like, hey, this is your first screen. You
Mm-hmm.
know, once these things are cleared off of this screen, we know that you want to go to this next screen. So it's, you know, this is your next screen. And just
Yeah.
be able to, like, you already have this pathway laid out
Mm-hmm.
that you can always go to the bird's eye view whenever you want, but this is your process. And that's
Mm-hmm.
kind of what I have. It goes left to right on the board, but I'd love to just
Mm-hmm.
have that in front of me. Like, it's this time, there's this thing, you know,
Yeah.
you missed four other things before this. You know, what do you want to do with those?
Mm-hmm.
This goes here, this goes here, this goes here. Okay,
Yeah.
cool. You know, or batch them. Like,
Mm-hmm.
but it's just how again, this is how my brain works. But to follow somebody else around and find out, well, what extensions do they need? I'd love to see if there's similarities.
Right.
Um, so I just need to know, like, where's the basic structure, which I do feel starts off with like the day thing and maybe the CRM part.
Mm-hmm.
Um, how much is too much for people? How do I onboard them? And how long does it take?
Mm-hmm.
Because I think it could overwhelm people very quickly.
Mm-hmm.
Like the amount of information I'm processing and dealing with every day, for most people, that's just going to overwhelm them to where they're like, I don't need this in my life.
Yeah.
And that's the opposite of what I'm trying to do.
Mm-hmm.
So, but for people like me, I think that's a future thing. Again, so see, it gives me clarity of that's a future thing. I don't need to worry about that right now. I
Yeah.
talked about it. Love to have the transcript. I'm gonna put that in the future
Mm-hmm.
because that's going to come up, and it'll be good to know that that is there. Um, but for now, it's more about how can I serve people with the current system
Mm-hmm.
I have in the way that the people who are ready to receive it can, because I can't make it
Yeah.
for people who can't receive it. It's it's not something I'm
Mm-hmm.
trying to do. So yeah, which I think you gave some great examples of the people that could use that. And I think as I share, that's what I want to do is just get this out and share what it does in a simple
Mm-hmm.
way, in a short 30-second clip that
Yeah.
people could view it and I could get some feedback. You know, is
Mm-hmm.
this something you're interested in or not? How could you see
Yeah.
yourself using this? I don't really know what I have here. You tell me.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, I think that's the right way to do it. And I would start with like I would start with people who are familiar with Trello. So it's like you've already removed one big obstacle in terms of like them having to um, understand project management software, like what's the value of it, how do you use it. So it's like for people who already get the tool, it's like here's how I'm using it. This is less for organizing projects and like it's like your life is a project, but you run your life differently than you run like an accounting, close. It's yeah, so that seems to make sense for me. It's like find I have no idea like if Trello has like a Slack channel or they have like a community on Discord. I have no idea. But I'm just looking like Facebook has quite a few Trello communities, like Trello for home educators, Trello for entrepreneurs, Trello tips and tricks. So I'm trying to see if there's any real big ones. But yeah, I would just record a, man, I feel like if I sat and kind of processed this, I might have a more concrete, actionable, but from the theoretical standpoint, what I would suggest is tell a story that illustrates this is the before body that didn't have a Trello system that was like, um, like I use the example because I was looking, I thought maybe this might be a data point. I don't know if it's something that you would feel kind of weird. It's like, well, that didn't happen a lot, but it's something I identify with. It's like, if you've ever been thinking about something, you walk into another room, you're like, what was I just, like, I just came in here for something. I completely lost my train. Like, I forget what I'm thinking about. I forget what I was coming in here to do. Like, you get lost on some level of, you know, dimension. It's like, if you are the idea, you forgot what part of your brain you're going to. And so it's like you have to backtrack and go back to the other room before like that it even has the potential of coming back to you. And so it's like since I've organized myself and organized my thoughts, that I don't lose information anymore. Like I don't walk into another room and forget an idea because I know how to send my ideas someplace right away. I know I'm clear and I'm able to focus on what I'm doing in the moment. It may not be something like that, but if you could give some kind of example of,
I have several. So like that's a part of my stuff, right? Is I have pain points. So when they came
mhm,
through, there's four of them
yeah,
right here. So one of them is you have great ideas but aren't able to follow through.
mhm,
Which I have. Let's see if there's more details. Analysis paralysis
mhm,
is definitely another one. Is your life fast paced? Mission completion, staying focused on tasks and not giving yourself the time or space to pause and think about what's actually going on.
mhm.
Making quick decisions, yeah, make quick decisions and try to adjust. So it
Mhm.
helps with that.
So which one of those like was the most, I don't know, did you burn the most amount of energy like on? If you had to pick the most painful for you in your experience.
Oh well, just having great ideas and not being able to follow through.
Hmm. Can
I mean,
you
this is the first
say
great
that?
idea I've been able to follow through on
Hmm.
because like I was a massage therapist, but that just fell in my lap because I was able to do it and it's passive as
Mhm,
hell. And like this is the first time in
mhm,
my life I've been able to actually collect enough clarity on something to move forward on. Yeah, I've never been able to do that before. And
wow.
this has allowed me to take all of those other things. Like I said, I mean, you saw the amount of them. There's like 20 projects.
Mhm.
How am I supposed to move forward with 20 projects worth of stuff
Yeah.
feeding me all the time and not having clarity of which one could I do first?
Mhm.
Because that's not how my brain works.
Right.
So yeah, I mean, beyond the seeing where the system doesn't work, it's showing me the importance. So this is the preface. Let's see here. Where do I have that? I have that here. So see, this is something else. It lets me have access to where things are,
Mhm.
which I normally didn't have access to. So yeah, making a conscious. So this is about making a conscious, simplifying decision and taking massive conscious action. I feel like I talked to you about that before, but it's about simplifying
Mhm.
and clarifying and then expanding on that, which is where I'm at now as I'm clarifying, working on, I want
Mhm.
to be in the expanding zone. And so I don't know how well I can speak into this process, but like this is the process that is used. You consciously simplify your life. you consciously simplify your processes. And with that comes clarifying all of those things, clarifying the processes of what works best for you, what you're needing in your life right now. And once you get clear enough with all of that, it allows you to expand in the present moment. And that's what I'm trying to do. I'm trying to force expanding before it's here, but I can recognize that it's here, like on the smallest amount, and that if I give it the attention like this, the clarifying is going to happen faster.
Yeah. You know what this reminds me of is like what Jessica was saying about with money. It's like if you want to bring in more money, you have to first do the work of creating a container that shows you can handle it. It's like, and what I'm seeing with this is like, if you want to, on some level, like evolve your consciousness, you need to create a bigger, like a bigger bandwidth tube for you to be able to process and store, receive, process, uh, transition, transmute, like delete information. And if it's just all happening inside you, that's too small of a container for you to really like. You're gonna basically, it's like when you're boiling spaghetti and like all the bubbles come up and it's like stuff comes up over the top, but then it's like that's lost. It's like if you boil stuff in a pot, it can boil and boil and boil. It's like it's not going to come up over the top because you've got a big enough container. Otherwise, you're going to be in this constant cycle of like you boil it over, but then you got to turn the heat down, and then you boil it over, and then you got to turn the heat down, and then you never make any progress because you can't sustain that level of energy.
Yeah, this was adapted based off of me getting into chess and with somatics, learning how to stay at a high level of efficiency for long periods of time and not go out of my window of tolerance.
Right.
So it's like it allows me to work at a high level and I can tell, so I dip it down a little bit, but it's like this constant wave right at the top of my efficiency.
Dang.
And that's what this helps to do though. Like this just I don't know, man. I don't know.
High performance mental efficiency. Yeah, I feel like that. I mean, the right audience, like that could be very, very expensive. I mean, you could totally roll this out to a handful of like ultra high end clients just as a demo project.
Yeah, I think I could offer this to one person for 100K and be busy as I could possibly be. Like I feel like that's. I mean, if I just need to find one person who wants this in that way, like, hey, I'll work with you for the next year, that you can become the most efficient version of yourself. But see, like that to me, I'm like, okay, but what about my mission? What about the other stuff? Well, there's probably gonna be plenty of time to do that.
Oh yeah, and especially if you're like, if you put on a part of the delivery like you put on the coach hat, where it's like, it's not your job to deliver it. It's like help them look at, so what is it you need to do next? Do you feel like you know what you need to do? Okay, go do that. And so you don't have to necessarily even be providing a product or service. It's like you show them just enough that they can do it themselves, and then they just keep coming back to you. You just keep them in the game long enough to win. And yeah, I feel like that could give you the space to, like, even if they're calling you every day, it's like if you set aside an hour, you're like, all right, let's do our check-in, and then the rest of the day, the rest of the time is yours to figure out, how much of my time is going to be developing this thing, how much of my time is going to be working on other stuff.
Yeah. Thanks for taking time to expand this today.
Yeah.
Appreciate your insight and just all of it. This is a really nice process. What kind of time do you have? I don't want to eat up too much of your time. I feel your energy about 5 minutes ago shifting a little bit to, I don't know if you're needing to regulate a bit or do
Um,
anything, but
Let me go run to the restroom and then I'll answer that question.
cool, man.
I feel like I'd be able to answer it better once I go to the bathroom.
Sounds good. All right. You guy was
Man.
sweeping, huh?
Yeah. So I'm feeling good. I think I just was a little bit distracted because I had to go to the bathroom, but I can
Yeah,
hang out for
I
another.
could tell.
I can hang out for another 40 minutes or so. Mm,
All right, I'm curious. I mean, I appreciate everything, bringing all this through, and I feel like I'm at a space right now of like, I'd love to check out the transcript later, kind of let this process and decompress. But
yeah.
is is there a way that I could serve you with this? Is there something that I could possibly develop for you to try? Is there something that interests you that you would like to check out? I think that's what I'm interested in.
Hmm.
Is
Yeah.
there some like some use that you can see with this, or is this a process that you would like to go through, but not at the extent that I'm at, because I
Hmm.
shared everything with you so you could get an idea of like
Yeah.
the what I'm actually doing, but I'm trying
Hmm.
to I'm trying to deliver this at the smallest amount possible. Like when I say
Yeah.
stack, I think of exactly what I was saying, the example with Jessica of like, okay,
Hmm.
here is because you can't sell Trello templates, but it's like, all right, I'll give you this with the videos and the automations that you can put in for a simple
Yeah.
system, $7. This is what it
Hmm.
looks like, quick uh, 20-30 second video of
Hmm.
what it actually does and how it flows through, and how they can use it on their phone for ease. But
Yeah.
then, to the extent that I have it, I could take it all the way to that if people are interested. It's
Yeah.
just more of, I figure the stack is leading into a done for you. Like I'll set
Hmm.
all up the automations. You don't need to learn how to do it. You can just use it and tell me what you
Yeah.
need. I'll give a certain amount of revisions before I would charge
Hmm.
more. And then the done
Yeah.
with you would be like the full extension of, do you want this to perform like your brain? Do you want to go through
Yeah.
the process that I did? What level of interest is there,
Hmm.
and what are the price points? I don't really know what those are, but
Yeah. So I'm just gonna like sidestep your question
sure.
completely and just kind of like talk about what's coming up for me. I was talking with Guillaume the other day, saying, "Man, part of me wants to start a journal or some sort of process where I can externalize my thoughts, clarify what is it that I want to happen, and then like project, create the future by like, okay, this is what's going to get done, tomorrow, next week, that sort of thing, so that stuff's already decided, and then my brain just figures out, all right, what do we need to do to get on the same page? Um, so we were talking, it's like we already talk almost every day and record the conversations. So I'm sort of verbally processing a lot of what I think and feel. So I already have a lot of the mechanism of the journal. Um, the problem is like going back through and having some sort of filter where it can be sorted and then dumped into containers. And so like this solves that problem, but I'm trying to figure out like how do I bridge the like, and maybe it sounds like what you're doing since you're using your phone and a lot of it can be like voice command labels and stuff. It's like you can literally just like as you're in the moment, it's like, oh, this needs to be a thing. So really the only skill that needs to be built or developed is just a slightly heightened sense of awareness of like, okay, this needs to be like written down or documented. So I'm gonna do it right now. And as long as like you learn that energy of like, oh, I don't want to lose this, then it goes into the system.
With some of that, if you don't know where it goes yet, it's hard to be able to put it somewhere.
Hmm.
So this is where developing your own system over time is important.
Hmm.
That if you have an idea of where it could go, that's great. But let's say like
Hmm.
what we're talking about now is having the containers and being able to sort them. In my case, I would either go, okay, 2 hours in, I want to mark this down to be put into productivity, and
Hmm.
then hashtag productivity. That way I could sort it from there. We do it different ways with our voice notes and conversations, or you could just like going from where you're at within that conversation, like if you don't know where it goes, have it go to a general place. So hashtag sorter, for me the word sorter, is what I use, but whatever you would want to have it go to. So processor, I think that's what my processor's for. And then that way you could do a recap later of filtering those things and creating the pathways that you would need, because there are themes. After a while, you run out of stuff. Like I didn't think I'd run out of stuff, but I ran out of stuff because I found the things that were most important, and that's what it's really helped me to do as well. That clarifying part of, you know what, this doesn't have to do with these other 20 things.
Yeah.
It just isn't important. I won't get to these other things if I'm over here diddling around with something else.
Mhm.
And but for your process, aside from going back through it, is that what you're trying to do? You not want to go back through it and have to process it yourself?
Yeah, that's the thing is like I feel like I most of the time I'm just like a conduit and it's like I'll just let it pass through, but I don't have the awareness of like, oh, I'm seeing this idea float by and it's like, do I need to do anything with it or not? So
Do
when
they,
it comes, go ahead.
I was just gonna ask, do they come up more as a like an entire process, or you're just talking about an idea and you could say whatever this idea is, speak that into your processor list, and then go back to look at it, and you could timestamp if you need to get details of it. But most likely, if you process it quickly, you would have an idea. And if you don't know yet, you could have,
Mhm.
instead of having a whole board of soon and future, you could just have that as a list until you need more space. But I think part of that would be like, why don't you know where it goes? And I could have probably asked myself the same question before I had this system of like, why don't I know where it goes? Like,
Mhm.
how long have I been using my brain? Why don't I know where things
Yeah.
go?
Okay, so it's this is I don't know whether this is the right question to ask. I guess the struggle for me is like I very rarely see um, the what do I need to do right now. It's like I see this like big multidimensional like, oh, this is what this thing is, but this is what it can do for me later, and this is what it could turn into and like grow into. Sort of like I don't see a seed. It's like I see the whole life of the tree kind of thing. Um, that's how that's how it feels like for ideas for me. So um, for me, as I'm talking, I'm like I'm sensing right away. It's like what I want is more than what you're saying. It's like what I'm not fully here, like where what this is, and right now is like I'm not fully in the present. So I'm not sure if that's something that I need to learn how to like bring back, and that's like a different like skill set and energetic process, or if having a tool like this would help me be able to do more of that thing, which I'm not able to do right now. Um, yeah, it feels to me like this would help a lot in terms of just identifying what are some like simple basic algorithms that I am not doing right now that I'd like to have, and and then have those like regularly a part of a daily routine. So stuff like checking incoming messages in all the channels that I can get messages, um, you know, looking at the calendar for the next day, making sure I'm like if I'm doing some sort of journaling thing, like um, going back and looking at stuff kind of uh, in the past and like doing some sort of review thing. Even processing like in real time, like client calls. Oh, that's that would actually help me a ton. If I could take the system that you've figured out for like noticing ideas and tasks in real time and like deciding and delegating, that's what I actually want. That's what I actually need is like the the names, like figuring out the algorithm labels of, oh, that needs to become a task, or this is some sort of piece of data that needs to get assigned to like a field in a CRM or something. It's like this is a great story that you could use for your marketing, that sort of thing. If I can figure out an algorithm for a client call, so it's like as I'm as I'm sitting down with them, so I don't have to go back and review a 2.5 hour call and process that. It's like as I'm sitting with them, I have a checklist in front of me of like the 8 things that, oh, this is a trigger. All right, so I need to assign that label. Let's say that trigger word so that it's in like it's on the transcript, and then those things can get like lifted out
Yeah.
immediately after as part of the process. Um, so it feels like that solves a need for me right away in terms of like that piece of the system. But I
Hmm.
also, so I think just understanding a little bit more clearly how you set up your labeling system and how you assign the labels in real time, and looking at that, like maybe sitting down and doing a little training with me on that, and maybe we can figure out if we can stream it on your phone so you can show me how you use it in real life.
Yes,
Um,
on the phone will be a lot better,
yeah.
and I'd love to do that. So we could, I mean, I could get on Zoom on my phone.
Mhm.
I mean, I can do that right now, but we, I feel like well, yeah, I mean, I can share that with you if you want. I do feel like that's a great thing, like our journeying process that we have for taking, from our recorded audio to
Mhm.
usable material. That was a
Mhm.
process that I had to lay out,
Mhm.
and didn't have them before. Created it, works for me, great. It sounds like you need like an interface, so like a board that you could begin, like things that you would normally do within client calls, things that would normally come out, but you wouldn't have to identify them all right away. You could
Mhm.
start with a general, just like a board with a
Right.
sorter processor list that then you could go through that when you were
Mhm.
done. But you could take the transcript, and that's a good thing about this being on the computer as well, is I can take the transcripts and I just copy it, I put it into the card, and then I
Mhm.
put that where it's supposed to go. You can put it into the description. So you could do something like that to where whatever
Yeah.
hashtags you had, you can do that. You can
Mhm.
create your key, so that way you know what they are, and then you'll be able to create lists or whatever it is that you need to from there. Because most of the time
Yeah.
you might have an idea, but the extension of, so you might have a lot of different marketing ideas
Mhm.
that of ways that you could use it. So you might need an entire marketing board. I don't know, but
Yeah.
you might just do it for each individual client, that you have a
Mhm.
board for them, but each client you make a template board that then once you get a new client, you just copy the board, you put their name, you put whatever you
Mhm.
want. And then the automations part though, that would come in where you could feed it into there for their
Mhm.
particular board from one place, or you could just make, because the automations aren't going to transfer. Like if you made automations on this board and you copy the board, the automations
Uh-huh.
aren't going to copy to the new board. But you could add that board in if they were general enough.
Right.
So if you wanted to be like, okay, this is something for copy. This is I don't know what else you would use, but whatever those things would be, you could either have those in the description or in the name if you were doing it by voice, or you could have specific board buttons if that's easier for you. So it just depend on ease of use, because
Yeah.
I had buttons for things before until I found out I could make a rule for that. And then I just made the rule because I knew where I wanted it to go based off the buttons. I'm like, I do this a lot.
Yeah.
I don't want to have to click this and hit this button. I just wanted to do it because I've done it so many times now.
Yeah.
So, it evolves as you evolve and as you figure out how it works best for you. But we could start with that, and I would definitely just have to take a look back, and I could maybe create a starter board for you, and we could share that and run you through a little demo of what that's like. Even I don't know, I guess how would we get, I would love to get a sample maybe, or an example of how this could help you in real time. So I don't know if that would work best through shadowing or how that would work. But do you have
in
any
terms of
ideas?
like a client call, or
Yeah.
like in
Yeah, I'm just curious as how to best, because this is something I've been thinking about, is how would I if I'm working with somebody, like how would I know what they need? Are they able to communicate that, or can I make it clear enough of what you need to communicate to me, or do I just kind of shadow
I
what you're
gotcha.
doing and I can see
Mhm.
what it is that you need? I can anticipate that. And so it's like if you were on a
Yeah.
call with somebody, you're like, oh, I'd really like to make, I'll make a copy thing for you. So it's like I'm in the background,
Right.
as like an admin almost
hmm
of like you say this certain thing, and I'm like,
Yeah.
cool, I created that and it's there for you in your system.
Mm-hmm. I see what you're saying. Yeah. Okay. So I feel like that will come with just once you figured out, not necessarily like how would you use the system or how would I use the system, but like what is the thing that you created? Like if we, and I think maybe that's where I'm going with this. Like if I look at your thing a little bit more closely with you using it and showing me how you're using it, so I can figure out my own application of it. It's like bouncing between these two versions, like we can figure out, oh, this is what it is, this is what it does. So
Okay.
then that will allow us to say it in a language that somebody could understand. And then you can create a framework of like, here's the service that I offer. Like you can do this, which is like plug and play, it's all done for you. It's like, and you get this benefit, this outcome, it does this job for you. It's like super easy. If you want to like sit with a group and everybody builds their own little like mini algorithms, and you can do like a workshop where you show, here's how I took this idea and I turned it into like an automation and a board. It's like you show people how to create that sort of, this is how to break off a little piece of your thinking DNA, turn it into like a automated program within the Trello ecosystem. And then the coaching, or like the high end version would be like, I'll just sit with you, you tell me what you need, and I'll figure out what we need to build for you, and we'll do it together until it works for you.
Nice. I don't think I could absorb all that, but I heard it. So I'm
Mm-hmm.
like, I get what you're saying. At the same time, I'm like, I don't know how that works, but
Mm-hmm.
it's interesting. I feel like I may have hit my threshold um,
Mm.
with what I can process in terms of where this goes
Mm-hmm.
for right now. And so this is good. I mean, 2 hours and 15 minutes. That's pretty good stretch there of working with that. But
Yeah.
I'm definitely going to listen to the transcript, and I appreciate that insight. And I can see that. I think the workshop part I kind of took a detour, but because I, start thinking of something else as soon as that comes up, and I'm just trying to stay present.
Hmm.
But I definitely agree. It needs to have the verbiage needs to be something that people can understand. Having that clarity will be great, and being able to offer that in different ways. Yeah, that would be awesome. So
Hmm.
yeah, I've got some good things to work on.
I think this is really powerful. I mean, if you can crack this into a simplified system, giving people the ability to turn themselves into like a computer AI and be able to program themselves externally. I mean, it's like, what would you like to happen? And you become the manifestation engine for that. It's like, here's the input that you need to create. Here's the little programs. Here's this app. Like, you got to start following your own rules, but you can't let that all just live in like a mush in your head. You have to get it out, and then like it's like whatever you create is like your 10 commandments, and it's like as long as you follow that set of instructions, you're going to be able to accomplish whatever you think up and know is possible to do. This is the system that allows you to like, okay, have a way to get that thing.
Yeah, that's where I started off with
Every
the materialize your
Go ahead.
vision. Yeah, that's
Hmm.
where I started off with that. I mean, that's really what my main focus was. Is all right, you have a bunch of information and it doesn't have a way to materialize.
Hmm.
Here's the pathway.
Yeah.
Yeah, man.
I think this is what I'm seeing is this is a more you know what this reminds me of is like uh in the end of the 90s or like the early 2000s, like there's this big fad of making electronics with clear cases. So like the Game Boy, you could like see inside, see the chip and stuff. Lots of gurus and productivity experts sell their version of like an organizer or a journal, and they don't explain what it is. I mean, they don't. It's too big of an idea for the vast majority of people to understand that this is actually a technology for you to become a different person. If you use a
Mm-hmm.
journal, if you keep a calendar, it's like a multi-dimensional object. But people just see it as like, oh, it's a journal and I write things down in it. For people who maybe subconsciously or consciously grasp that that's what it is, but they still haven't been able to use somebody else's system because they have to have it be like multi-dimensional and complex, and they don't like using somebody else's system, but they haven't created their own. That's what you're giving them the ability to do. It's like get all the benefit of like a high performance journaling system that was built exactly for you, um, but it's tailor made for you because you built it.
And it evolves with
I think
you.
that's mm-hmm. Yeah.
Yes, that's
It's
exactly
like
what this
it's
is.
like it's like if you did bullet journaling with a robot.
The pitch on this is, people that have tried a lot of different things
Mm-hmm.
that they haven't found the thing that works for them because it hasn't been custom made
Mm-hmm.
for them.
Mm-hmm.
That this is what I'm offering.
Mm-hmm. Yeah.
So yeah, man, I mean, it's just so massive.
Hmm.
I feel like there's so many applications to it, but I know I know there are people who need this. There's people who want this
Hmm.
but might not be able to do it. But if I can get it to simplify, and like this is next level awareness.
Hmm.
But I agree, it's like it is programming. I'm programming myself. My tools and embodiments that I use, the way that I set it up, like everything is to make it so I can be present and not have to think about, okay, I want to be this kind of person in this situation.
Hmm.
Like you could make a copy. So if you wanted to, this is wow, this is something I'm actually going to do. But so the conscious connection card, I was going to have it make a copy every time it moved somebody.
Oh shit, dude. We're trying way too hard.
What's that?
I just realized, like, you have to use the language that the market understands. You're trying to jump somebody from like the subway station in New York to like the International Space Station. Like that's where you live, and it's like this is totally possible, it's totally normal, guys. Like humans can survive in space, it's no big deal. But like people don't even believe that we went to the moon. So it's like all you need to do is have really sexy marketing. It's like get more shit done by using Trello. And then that becomes your broad feeder net. And for the people who are like, yeah, this has really helped me organize my productivity and organize my ideas, like, here's what's happening in my like personal life. I'm like shit's just falling apart. And it's like those people already have some level of trust with you. So if we figure out what is maybe it's like a Trello workshop, like very basic, low level, normal. This is how to create automations in Trello. This is how to, so you become like a Trello coach, but you can also talk about your spiritual journey and stuff like all of these things that you value.
Shit, Eric.
And then people raise their hands like, tell me more about that. And you're like, well, I use Trello for way more than just like project management. This is my external brain. And for the people who are interested in that, then you have a pool of people who've already paid you, who already trust you, and you already have validated that they don't need you to teach them like the basic building blocks of what you're using. So it's just like, I think it's just a matter of like simple market research, like what do people pay for in terms of Trello coaching? Like what does the Trello system not do in their help, like in their free stuff? And even if it's there, a lot of people are too lazy to just go read the manual or like read the FAQ stuff and find out.
Yeah.
Like they just want somebody to show them. So if you just did 60-second, 90-second videos on like, hey, here's a cool thing you can do in Trello. Do that on TikTok or YouTube, and then just like create a banner. It's like if you want me to set up a Trello project with you, create a bunch of like gigs on Fiverr and also you just start getting Trello people coming to you.
So let me ask you something, Aaron. Is this something that you could set up for me?
Sure.
Because I hear all that you're saying, and I think that's a lot of work for me.
Mm-hmm.
Is this something that I could pay you for?
Yeah.
I'd love to pay you for
Sure.
teaming up and basically I could create content or whatever. Like I don't know
Mm-hmm.
how you would package it, but basically like, all right, give me some suggestions on what it is that I'm needing to put together and needing to do because
Mm-hmm.
I can do all this and I have all of the information and I
Mm-hmm.
can I can basically back all of this up. So I feel
Mm-hmm.
like I don't want to like as you're saying all this, I'm like, yes, that would be great. I love that thought.
Mm-hmm.
But the fact that I would have to do that and figure out, I don't know, just even the whole thing about all the algorithms,
Hmm.
and it is something I'm not comfortable with, and it
Hmm.
stresses me out. And
Yeah.
I feel like I'd like to be able to do that immediately. And if that's something
Hmm.
that you could guide me on, I'd love to start putting stuff out now. So
Hmm.
yeah, what does that look like? Because I know before you were saying of having like a content library and
Hmm.
how to work with me. Like I don't have any of that stuff,
Hmm.
but I would love to develop all of that
Yeah.
surrounding this, so that way people know this is what I do and this
Hmm.
is how you can work with me, and just all of that. Because I know I'm going to be able to help people as soon as they ask me. I feel
Yeah.
like I've been doing this for 3 months, but I feel like I'm an expert. And
Hmm.
now, I mean, most people wouldn't like dare to know this much about Trello. So,
Hmm.
um, yeah. So anyway, you have something like that? We could work together.
Yeah. Sounds good. Let me see. So I'll show you what I've been doing. Um, what's up here?
Is this what you and Guillaume have been doing?
This is stuff that I've been doing kind of on my own. Um, share screen. All right, so I'll try and keep this straightforward, but this is an example of what I did for Randy Hyden. He's been trying to launch his program for like a year and a half since I've known him. And just the last, I don't know, month or so, he's kind of gotten a little bit more serious and figured out what he'd like to do. And so I just had happened to be around because I know him, and so he's gotten at the place where he had enough in his head where on a call, I did a group call and I just asked people to tell me their story. And then for him, I was able to say, okay, well, here's what I'm hearing from you about your program that you want to run. This is the framework. And so then we broke this stuff all down into steps, which he had a lot of this stuff pretty close to this. It didn't take a lot.
Mm-hmm.
And so we like broke it down into these steps, and then like there's on here we have a bunch of other um so this is just the lead magnet thing. It's like it just breaks down the program and the outcomes in terms of how he wanted to say it. Um, but this program that I have, it's like the value of working with me is like I just ask the questions with people until I get the information that I need, and then I plug it into this software that spits out a bunch of like custom. It's like if you map out the what you were saying pain points and outcomes and enough data and detail, then it will generate all kinds of other resources.
Mm-hmm.
So what I normally what I normally charge people for just this one lead magnet is like 297. And I just step down this list of like we need all of these things to go into the system in order to be able to talk about what it is. But then once all of that work is done, most of the clients don't really know this, but like once I have that information, I can generate tons of different kinds of resources. So like I can give them the one thing they need right now, and then when they're like are using it and they're getting clients, they like, I just had somebody say to me yesterday, I sat down, looked at her thing. She's a dog coach, and then she said, the next thing I really need to make is like a one sheet for booking um, speaking engagements. She's like, can I put time on your calendar next month to make something like that? And it's like, I already have most of the stuff that I need to create that pretty quickly. Um, but it's not like I'm gonna go to extra work to do that. So what I'm thinking is if you want to schedule a session where I'll talk through if there's some specific language that you want to include in here that will kind of dovetail and tie into like a bigger picture of what you're doing. But like I can do the I can do the product research on the Trello stuff and see like what does that market need to hear, what does the offer need to look like in order for it to land for those people, and then we can generate email sequences, follow up, like nurture email systems. It'll create like a course. It'll create. Well, I have it here. So like you fill out like a campaign planner and product roadmap, and then the design studio lets you create any of this stuff that's okay. This is the product roadmap. Oh, assets here. Hmm. But we can generate like a course. We can generate nurture sequence, lead magnets, like so like enrollment scripts. It's like a workflow process for getting people into your program or like asking them what kind of help do you need and how much is it worth to you. Um, there's a booking application. Like we can set up most of the stuff that you're thinking. And then
Yeah,
like this will
quizzes.
generate.
Are quizzes up in here?
Let's see. We could probably build a quiz for something like that. But then that's not part of this system, but I'm sure we can find something.
Mhm.
But yeah, in terms of like being able to generate tons of content, like this thing will generate like a year's worth of hooks, like the things to get people's attention. And then if we know what you're, what if we're talking to an audience who wants to use Trello to have more productivity, we're really marketing productivity. We're marketing
Yeah,
less technical overwhelm. We're marketing like feel better because you're getting more stuff done in your day. Be a powerhouse kind of thing. It's like so then all of these hooks are going to talk about that, and then it's whatever you want to show that day. Um, you know, any kind of hey, here's how to do this one thing in Trello, or here's how to set up a board, or different things like that. But all of the other like back end stuff to um, generate traffic, show like I have a system that is easy to use, and then Guillaume can build like a kick-ass funnel. Um, we could totally do something like this that should be too much work for you to have to show up to.
sweet. Yeah, I mean that's what I want to do, and I don't know. I've never tried to set anything up as far as getting results with online marketing. So I've
Hmm.
learned all about it. I've never felt like I've had anything to put out there
Hmm.
that I wanted to, and
Yeah.
this is actually something that I want to do. So um, yeah, we want to set up a call then. How? What are
Yeah.
next steps here?
Yeah, let me send you my Calendly link. And Alrighty. So that should show my calendar, like any of the times that I'm available, and then we'll sit down and I'll try and map out the framework with you in terms of what is it that this if there's any specific language I'm looking for from you, but we'll set that up and then I'll do some research on what is the what does a Trello coach offer need to look like, and then it's like if we generate like a graphic for your Facebook profile, if that's where you hang out the most, or on Instagram, and then seems like creating some Fiverr gigs would be another great way to like get paid to get leads, because you're using their traffic and then people who are looking for. I just want somebody to set up Trello for me, and then like anybody that you've worked with, um, they just become like potential prospects for kind of like the bigger thing. But that's the way to like you just slowly start growing your audience, get paid to grow your audience by saying, I help people with Trello.
Nice. Trying to sign up here. Let's see here. I don't know if that's my good card or not. Anyway. Get this thing set up now. Let's see. That's the one I want.
This is exciting. I feel like we've stepped into a different level of, or a different version of ourselves. Because I'm like,
Sure.
go ahead.
I'm gonna grab this real quick. Be right back.
Sure.
All right. So you feel like we're stepping into different versions of
Yeah,
ourselves?
it just feels like I don't know. It's like I've known you for a while, and it seems like we've both been in the boat of, I know I can help people, but like what is that thing? And now we're in the space of like, you already have a system that you've worked on, that you like, that you want to get to other people, and there's clarity on that process, and you know what kind of help you need to make that real. I feel like I've been in the movement of actually like listening to what do people need, and like going and doing that with them, and just it feels so cool to be in this space where um beyond like wanting to help people, we're actually we're making it real.
Right, we're doing it now.
Yeah.
So what's this 997 dashed off? Is that for show, or what's that about?
So that's kind of like the most I've charged for this, and then this I haven't made
Nice.
any calendar appointments for um any more people at that price yet, but I feel like as my I'm just starting to get to the place where my capacity is, it's like I'm gonna start only having time or room to like help clients. I'm not gonna really have a lot of bandwidth for free stuff. So I need to go through the process of, okay, of the stuff that I'm doing, what can I systemize and start handing off to a VA and like sales teams, that kind of thing. So as I start
Do you want that
involving
on
more
your Trello?
people, yeah, absolutely. So as I'm
Yeah.
like systemizing and expanding, like I'll probably start charging more like, $1,000 for these kinds of things. In terms of like results and outcome, as I'm just getting more and more clear on who I can actually help and who's ready for uh, what I'm doing, like actually making, like helping them move the needle and moving forward, like it becomes more valuable. But you have to sort of do it at the low level of like, okay, I've had the experience and I can look at it and be like, oh, this is what it is. So now I can say it better and get better, quality people. So it's just that process of moving and trying stuff. But yeah, that like the price on there is like that's what I charged Randy the first time. Um, when he said I want some help, help me enroll some people in my program. So he paid me $1,000, and
Nice.
now that I've kind of shrunk the process down to like, okay, I know I can do a lot of what I'm doing like in just a session or two, and takes a lot less time, and so
Hmm.
yeah. Um,
Makes sense, man. Yeah, I'm excited to work with you. I got it on for Friday, so
Sweet.
take care of business. I know. It's been a long time coming, and yeah, I guess is there anything that I could work on before we meet? I mean, I want to get into what you had shared too, so I can create some kind of
Mhm.
template. Um, see what I can whip up.
Yeah. So yeah, in terms of like what I'm looking for is I think what I saw that I liked that I know I could use right away was the the placeholders for morning routine, uh, work setup routine, and then like end of day debrief or processing routine, or something like that. It's like having some things like that where it's just like I'm not even thinking about it. I'm just all right, just go down the list, make sure I've done all this. Okay, like I can unwind and like relax knowing I've done, you know, base level stuff. That would be super helpful to create.
Yeah, that was exactly. I could send you over this like flow part of what I was referencing to with the flow app itself, but
Hmm.
of there's just kind of some questions about how your energy does best through your day and see
Hmm.
what that's like. But yeah, man, I'm excited just to do more of this. So I'm gonna go decompress because that's what I need to do. It's been a nice expansive session here.
Yeah.
And you go chill for a minute, eat some chocolate maybe, and just enjoy myself. But what do you get into today? What's going on?
Um, this is about end of the day for me. I usually leave
Nice.
around 4, and I'm gonna cook my family dinner. Have a pull a little bit of heaven down, and just have a meal this evening. So it's gonna be nice wrap up to the day.
Yeah, that sounds nice. Well, yeah, it's been great connecting. Thank you for taking so much time.
Oh,
Appreciate that.
absolutely.
Yeah,
It's
and
always a great experience getting to connect with you, and I feel like it's really amazing to see the like be able to see the growth and the journey that people are taking. You have so little visibility into other people's lives most of the time, and I feel like what we have with our group and our friendships is so rare. It's such a privileged experience, and I'm like, man,
yeah,
it's almost incomprehensible how blessed and fortunate we are to be able to like have the little group that we have.
yeah, we'll have to catch up a little bit on, I guess, family and all that. But tell Sarah I
Yeah,
said hello.
I will. And tell Alicia I say hi back. And
Will
looking forward
do.
to seeing you on Friday.
All right, brother. Take care of yourself. I'll see you.
All right.